Everyone, this is Martin from howtomakemobilegames.com on July the 14th, 2019. Sunday afternoon, sort of evening here in Manchester, England again. And this is the first video that I've done in quite a while talking about Unity stuff and specifically some code stuff. So I think I mentioned in the last video that what I've been doing over the past few weeks or a couple of months is working more on hardware and a little bit of Arduino tech. So I'm going to talk about that in this video and just what I've been doing and how I've been reading the code from the Arduino and how I've been applying it in Unity as well. The reason I'm sort of going down this route is twofold. One is because I want to make something that is quite unique and solves a specific problem, not something to do with games at all. This is completely unrelated to game development, but the code that I might show you is relevant in terms of, say, code structure that might be used inside games as well. So hopefully you'll find that useful. But the second reason is because I think when it comes to hardware, people are used to paying for it. Whereas when it comes to apps and software, if you tell somebody, "Oh, I've built this new app, I've got this new game," they'll say, "Oh, where can I download it?" They'll go to the app stores and everything is expected to be free. Whereas with a piece of hardware, a physical thing, people are always used to paying something for it, whether it be a hardware device or food or a car or whatever. It's just in the minds of people, they know they're not going to get it free. So that's the other reason why I'm kind of going down this direction. But the first one being, I want to do something in the area of biofeedback and improving techniques related to meditation. I'll elaborate more on that in a future video. But that's the sort of area that I'm trying to go down with this tech. So here it is, the Arduino. Hopefully you can see this okay. This is the Elegoo Arduino that I got from Amazon, and I think I got sort of pack, which is around £29 or something like that, and I got a bunch of circuits. All I've been doing is with this one is hooking up a thermometer, a heartbeat sensor. This LED thing. And then the other one that's inside of this circuit as well is also a blood oxidity measurement thermometer. So how much oxygen you have in your blood. I've not really used that part much though, but this is cool. I've got it hooked up, getting signals through the Arduino itself from the sensor into the Arduino and then into Unity as well through the USB cable here. So I'll show you the code and give you a bit of an overview. This isn't a tutorial video, it's really just showing you what I've done and kind of giving an overview explanation. But it's been a really fun little journey for me so far, and hopefully it's just going to continue and I'll be able to build something for the world and maybe it'll be useful for people. FYI guys, if you're seeing this video on the free YouTube channel, part 1 is always free on YouTube and you can see it as much as you like. Part 2 is available on the paid section of the howtomakemobilegames.com forum, which is the top section of the forum, which is $3 a month, and all of the videos are there. So I do part 1 on YouTube, which is the free one, and then part 2, if you want to see it, you can go there and subscribe using PayPal. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe immediately. You can just pay one time, see all the videos, and then unsubscribe. It really helps me out, guys. Thank you for supporting and those subscribers out there. So first things first, let's just jump into Unity and I'll show you what it's doing, and then I'll kind of talk through the code a little bit. I think that's the best way to do it. At least you've got some kind of visual representation. So pressing play on Unity, it's hooking up to the Arduino, really reading from the serial port and starting to get signals through. So this bouncing sort of indicator here is what this is just a trail renderer of the signals that's coming through, and the white dots are the individual points that have come through. So here I think it's tracking 100 points, maybe 100 pieces of signal information. And as I'll try and show you as I cover it. You can see the LED is getting more or less light reflected, because what this LED does is it shines into the skin and then the blood itself reflects the light as far as I'm aware, and then there's a sensor next to the LED which detects how much light is reflected. So depending on the pulse through the vein, it then reflects more or less depending on how much pressure is pushed through, and that's how you get a beat. At least I think that's the way it works anyway. So if I just hold down on that, I don't know if it's going to work like this, but let's just see if I can get a beat. I might have to hold it flat on the table actually, because keeping a steady pressure is kind of hard. Let's take a look. Yeah, so there you go. Top right, you can see the beats coming through there. It's a little bit difficult like this because you're meant to keep a steady pressure, which is kind of the difficult thing. So if I just put it flat on the table for a second, and I'll just rest my middle finger on it, and I'll try and keep just a steady pressure. What I usually do is just wrap some tape around it, or rubber band, or some Velcro as I've got over there, and that'll be able to just hold it in place at a constant pressure. So you can see the beats on the top right of Unity there, the beat count. So each time it's going down and then up, it's counting at a single beat. And yeah, so long as the pressure is steady. Now that's the thing with, from what I understand with things like Fitbits as well, if the pressure isn't steady, it doesn't record exactly how much beats per minute you got. It can be slightly off. What I'm doing here with this beat counter is actually counting the number of beats inside of a minute, or each beat counts. I'm not doing a beats per minute calculation, not doing an average. It's actually trying to count the exact number of beats that happen in 1 minute. So yeah, that's kind of working anyway visually. So let me just show you the first part of what I did on the Arduino side, and then I'll talk about what I did in the Unity code to try and get that beat more steady, because I'd seen people on YouTube who had talked about doing an Arduino heartbeat sensor, and maybe getting some difficult result, maybe not getting equal results each time, or maybe sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So I'll kind of elaborate on what I've done there. But the Arduino side is very simple. This Arduino IDE was just a free download that you can get from the Arduino site, and I'm running the Max 30. I think this is a 30102 component, that little LED sensor. A lot of these I don't think are entirely relevant, but all it is during the setup you define a baud rate. Serial print is just like debug.log in Unity, telling the particle sensor to begin to get ready to record. And I think a lot of these ones I'm not currently using right now. I'm just doing particle sensor.setup, and that seemed to work fine. When we do a particle sensor.setup and then add in all of these values here, I was getting issues. I don't know why. Let me double check which one was it, guys. No, sorry. This one at the top here, if anyone's seen this, wants to know about Arduino Heartbeat and Unity, I was getting trouble with this I2C speed fast. It was tracking in the serial plotter, but then it wasn't recording. It was breaking down after a few seconds, then wasn't recording anymore. So I just did particle sensor.begin, and that seemed to work just fine. I'm just doing the default settings for the setup here. The light is getting set. That's in the LED light on the sensor itself. This part right here is some old code, which is not my code. That's from the example that I got. But once that's all set up, the main thing that I'm doing on the loop, which is like update in Unity, is I'm just getting a serial read of the particle sensor, getting the infrared value. That's it. And then inside of Unity, all I do is I hook up to the serial port, and I just get fed that data, and I just read it from the serial port, and that's all it is. There's a couple of the things I've got to experiment with here. Eventually, do I bring all of the code onto the Arduino side to detect a heartbeat, or do I do that in Unity? Do I have this as a standalone product on its own which does something, or is it just a little experiment and I don't care that I'm reading values in Unity? We'll see about that. So, but all you do is basically click on the tick to verify that this sketch, as it's called, sketch is basically just a program that's compiled and then put onto the chipset, the Arduino chipset. And then upload means you're actually flashing the ROM. I think that's the correct term. Pushing that sketch to the hardware. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. I've got to learn a lot more about Arduino, but so far it's a real cool piece of tech. I've got a ton of components over there that I need to do something with. But first thing is, the reason why I'm making this and what I'm trying to achieve so far, and I did this with another sensor. If I show you, I did it with this sensor before, which is just a standard heartbeat sensor. This one was said to be a little bit better, so we'll see about that. But tracking my heartbeat during meditation and seeing if that heart rate does decrease or increase over time. Generally, from the research that I've done, is that as you do meditate, you get a slower heart rate, which is a sign that you are more relaxed. And I did see that when I've tracked it a little bit. I've done around, when I do 1 hour meditation sessions, I'm basically tracking the heartbeat, how many beats happened inside of a single minute, and then I've plotted that on a graph inside of Google Sheets. Eventually bringing that stuff into a separate program, like a Unity built program, or on the Arduino itself, we'll see about that. But because I'm into meditation, I've been doing it heavily this past few months. And I've been doing it for years on and off, but I wanted some hardware to give me some feedback to say, how is it going? Am I feeling more relaxed? Am I some kind of biofeedback to help me gauge how my meditation is going? That's the sort of direction that I'm trying to go with this hardware tech, to give myself some direction. So let's jump into the Unity code and take a look to see what's going on that side. Hopefully this will give you guys a little bit of insight into how I structure code as well. It's still very work in progress. It's going to be messy. This is not a tutorial for beginners or anything. It's just a very quick overview of how this works in terms of reading the data and how I'm plotting the graph and so on. In the Unity scene itself, all I've got is a trail holder, and then underneath there the camera's tracking it, which is why the camera's blopping up and down at the moment. I'll fix that eventually so it looks like an actual graph that scales over time and the camera doesn't dip up and down. But right now it's fine. It's just a visual thing to tell me that, yeah, we're getting information coming through and it's going up and down. So there's a trail render underneath there, which is that pink line that you saw before. That works really handy and just is fine for showing kind of a heartbeat sensor or heartbeat reading coming through. I generally keep a manager's script in the scene, and I like to keep managers on that game object. Manager's game object. I like to keep my main scripts on there. It's all in one place, and these generally handle, things like I've got here, the sensor read manager, so reading the signal from the Arduino. I've got a fake data injector, which is basically just when I've not got my finger on the device or it's not plugged in, I can just inject some fake data. Beats recorder. This is writing a script. Writing a text file, how many beats happened every minute. So if I had 66 beats, if the text file exists, it'll write a new line. If it doesn't, it will create the text file and then write that line. Check for beat. This is this just helps you to say, hey, was there a beat within, based on the graph data. So all of my managers I like to keep there, and it's all in one place. Now a lot of the time, obviously, they'll have to be on the components themselves, but in terms of doing the main structure of things, I like to keep them on a single game object, and it kind of centralizes things, because sometimes in Unity bits can be all over the place and you don't know where the heck anything is. Sure, you can do a search for it, that's fine, using the search there in the hierarchy, but I do like to keep managers in one place, that's for sure. So let's just give you an overview, a bit of code. I can't speak today, guys. Serial port. So establishing a connection with the serial port, that's basically there you're defining a new serial port. Start serial port, which is down here. We're opening it and setting a timeout. I had problems before whereby I was trying to connect to the Arduino and then there was no data coming through and it just went on a flat line because I didn't set the serial read timeout high enough. In this case, I've got it set to 5,000 milliseconds or 5 seconds. And great, the signals come through really steady, nice strong signal, perfect. So let me see, excuse me, threading, yes. That was a new thing that I did. In general, from what I understand and from the work that I've done, if you're reading data from an external piece of hardware like this Arduino kit here, or what I do at work is I read data from external hardware that's created by the hardware guys in the other office, it's best to do it on a new thread, because if that data is coming through at, say, 9600 baud, however fast that is, let's say it's coming through at 10 milliseconds, every 10 milliseconds, but then Unity slows down so that its frame rate is less than 10 milliseconds, which is very common, then you're going to miss the data, or you're going to have a queuing where we had the issue whereby the signals were getting sent and they were just getting queued, so then the data would have to catch up with it, and it was really weird. So the way that you get around that is by using threading, and it's a real simple example here, but just defining the new thread, defining the function, and then saying is it work in the background, and then starting the thread. In this case, I've just made a function called read Arduino data threaded, which is down here, and all we're doing is, if the serial port is open, try to read the line from the serial port. Try parsing it as well, so integer.tryparse, so it's a safe check, just in case the data that comes through can't be parsed, and then just putting that data out into a number here, and then saving that into the main value that is used throughout the rest of this script. in a format of in a float as well. So that's pretty straightforward, and this is one of the first times I've used threading, and it seemed to work really well. Hopefully that's just going to be super smooth as this program builds. It's just going to keep on coming in nice and smooth and updating that data. And all we're doing in the update loop is we're reading the latest value that's come through from the Arduino. We're not trying to catch up or slow down, or it's not going to cause any slowdown because it's done on a separate thread. So all that's happening in update is we're processing the input from the sensor and then debugging the value out into Unity, which is basically this value up here, getting the raw value. But then a bunch of checks after that as well. Like, for example, if it's above 3000, then we know we've got some kind of signal coming through, because below 3000 it's just going to give that data wobbling up and down. Checking did the beat happen, and if so, increase it and give the user some visual feedback. What I'll probably do in there is add like a little heartbeat pulse or something like that. And then moving the trail renderer to the right as well. So that little trail holder that we saw before, all that's doing is just moving it to the right slowly over time using delta time, and then the Y of it is getting set by that serial read value. The thing to note, guys, is when you do this as well, is the value that came through from the Arduino is around 100,000 to 120,000. So be aware that you get floating point imprecision and it won't work on the Unity side. I had to basically divide it by 10, which is down here somewhere. Yeah, that serial read, divide it by 10, and then apply that divided value to the Y position of the trail renderer, or else it just wouldn't like it. It just screws up or flicks around, and it jumps from the position to 0 and back and forth, and it doesn't look like a heartbeat on the screen, or at least the trail doesn't look like that. I'll explain a little bit more in a second, guys, and talk about a little bit more about structure, and also explain in the second video about how I got that average sort of line, and then the checking of the beat as well, because I knew a few people had found issues with that. But check in for part 2 on the howtomakemobilegames.com forum, and I will chat to you soon. Bye.